Call the meeting of the Board of Trustees for the Village of Dansville, Department Head meeting to order. Please stand, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance.
And I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. I would like to call for a brief executive session meeting or session to hear some issues by Mrs. Duffy over here. I'd like to speak to the board. I guess we could call this employment history. She has to get back downstairs here quickly, so if I could have a motion.
So move.
All right, motion by Trustee Whitenack, second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Labar. It shouldn't take too long. Everybody else, please step out and I'll take that. We'll turn it off, I guess. Stay, or I should say, no. All right. Everybody else quit?
No,
They're out there.
Good job.
Okay, some mayor's comments and some correspondence. Last night, or I should say yesterday, we had a Transportation Access Study Steering Committee meeting with the town offices. About 3 alternatives, one with several sub-alternatives were mentioned as far as traffic flow out of exit 5 for the industrial park. Exit 4 we sort of skipped over. There will be a public meeting or info session again on May 29th. I believe that's at 5 p.m. Once I have a confirmation on it. I had to leave early, so I didn't get the final stuff on that. But I'll let you all know what that is. Again, this is a study. It's being, the lead agency is the county. It's part of their connectivity program throughout the county, with a focus on this particular study is for Dansville, and includes both the village, the town of Sparta, and of course it includes the hospital, LMC, or I should say, I guess it's 4M down there, 3M, whichever the one they are, and some other agencies as well from the state, planning. Yeah, it was a good session, lasted about 2 hours. And then last night, the Economic Development Group out of Geneseo, the county, came up here. That was Julie Marshall and Louise Wadsworth to discuss the Main Street Improvement Grant. We had around 25 people here. So that was a good turnout. They were only expecting about 10. So that will, by the middle of June, the county has to submit a application for the grant, which would be about, I think it was $250,000, not very much right now, for a second phase for the village to go through. This will be for any kind of structural, electrical, plumbing, what have you inside buildings. Can even be the facades. Like I say, it's a good program, so we had a good turnout to start with. Next Wednesday, Scott and I will be going to Watkins Glen to attend a water infrastructure grant info session, put on by, EFC, right? That'll take up our morning, back sometime in the afternoon. And you should have a couple letters in your folders. One's the Freedom Walk for Pit Bulls on September 28th. You don't need to take any action tonight. They did it a couple of years ago. I don't know. Did they do it last year, Charlie?
Yes.
Okay. And then also Town and Country Gateway is holding the barbecue event on July 19th, and they're going to want to close off Allen Street or a portion of it. And the Legion is seeking the $600 that we set aside for Memorial Day. So So we'll vote on that next week. That all goes to flags and the flowers and that up around the monuments and then the cemeteries. They get it from us, they get it from the VFW and from the town of North Dansville. So it's spread out. And with that, go to legislative. Megan, do you have anything in particular you want to talk about before I get into the list I've got?
The only thing was the RFP for the housing rehab grant. If we could take action on that tonight, it would be appreciated, and then the dates I had in there would stick for the
That's
RFP.
for
to
the
put
ad, for the
in.
RFP,
Yep, to put the
yep.
ad in.
Yep. I got it.
There's information on unemployment insurance in your folders that was requested, I believe, a couple of months ago by Jay. There's a couple different ways that you can pay for it, so you guys can take a look at that. Let me know if you decide you wanted to change. And then there's something from Greg Hoare in there, just inviting you to sit on the reviewing stand for the Dogwood Parade. So just take a look at that. He sent that to me this afternoon. And that's it.
He needs feedback on that?
Yeah, probably.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see, the end of the month here, I believe it's the 29th, we have our arbitration hearing regarding our retirees and HRA benefits. Just so you're aware of that.
What date is it?
I believe it's May 29th, Thursday, be held here. The arbitrator's a professor out of the University of Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken. She will run it. And unless I'm mistaken, we have a CSCA contract session again tomorrow. Really no action on that, that's just info at this point. We have a request for permission to peddle energy from Major Energy. I am not familiar with them. I think this is the first time the gentleman spoke with Megan. When was that? Monday?
It was probably Monday. He said they had never been in
I
Dansville
didn't think-
before. They're looking to replace Just Energy. They heard Just Energy's sales were down in this area.
That's because we kicked them out
Yep,
for a couple of years.
that's right.
They did, just for some background, Just Energy did contact me about a month or so ago. And apparently they've had some changes in management in the area, so, but I haven't heard them. They said they could do it as long as they adhered to the requirements. We didn't have any repeats of the previous incidents. If we did, that would be the end of that. I haven't heard anything from them, haven't seen them. They say Major Energy, we just need to make sure they understand what the rules are. Has anybody contacted you at all? No. Okay. So we can vote on that next week. There's no rush on that. We do have a couple of things we need to take action on because of, well, I take that back. This one we do not tonight. New York State Main Street program. There's a resolution we have to pass. You should have a copy. It's a sample copy. It's in your folders. We'll just have to put it on letterhead and everything, but we'll go ahead and take action on that next week. Look it over, see if you have any questions, let me know. The other item is the Community Development Block Grant. That's the $400,000 we got for housing rehab. We are in the throes of trying to get that together. And I've been in contact with Bernie Toma on that, but we've got a number of things we have to do, including putting out ads. And Megan needs to get those out, so I would like to have a motion to go ahead and advertise for an administrator is what it's for the program, and to allow people to know that we have the program.
So moved.
All right, have a motion by Trustee Labar, second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Whitenack. Any discussion, questions, concerns? Okay, if not, Trustee Labar,
Aye.
Trustee Whitenack,
Aye.
Trustee Criley,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Okay, and that's really all I have under legislative. Any of the board members have any questions for Megan or myself? If not, we'll jump down to public safety.
Code Officer Tammy,
Hello.
you're first up.
Okay. You got my reports, right, in your folders?
Yep.
Okay.
Should have.
Those are still as is. This is just a packet. Sorry, Mayor's got the only one where my printer was working. My color printer's not working. After an hour on the phone with HP today, they said they'll call me tomorrow. That's a print screen of my property photos files. If you look, there's over 1,000 properties I have inspected in some way, shape, or form, because I don't think anybody knows what I do over there. I think everybody thinks I sit there and wait for the phone to ring. And so if you don't think there's only one picture in each folder, here's a sampling of what is in, how many pictures are in some of these. That's the Castle on the Hill. This is just one apartment on Main Street. This is commercial property on Main Street, 213. From when I took pictures for issuing citations to when the new owner bought it, demolition, reconstruction. Here's a single family residence on Seward Street. Time of sale pictures, building permit pictures. So y'all kind of have a better understanding that the code officer is not just waiting for the phone to ring. Just wanted to get that out there.
Would you address the issue with the CO problems we had this past week?
Absolutely. On Mother's Day, there was a 911 call, and one of the tenants called 911 from 62 Elizabeth Street, which is an apartment house that has 4 apartments in it. It's owned by John Q, the guy that owns Wong's. He's
The one
never
right
let-
next to the Union Hose.
Yeah, he's in the big brick building. He's never let me in the building. So fire department called me and said, hey, you want in? They transported 9 people.
9 or 10.
I'm pretty sure it was transported
Chamberlain said 9 today, but that's close.
people-
That's
CO.
9 people
Yes,
with CO, carbon monoxide poisoning. 1 confirmed, 8 suspected at time of transport. 2 additional ones the ambulance wanted to transport, but they signed off they didn't want to. What we found was 3 gas hot water tanks and 3 gas furnaces were venting CO directly into the basement. And there were 2 natural gas line leaks. Right now, I am not allowing anybody to live in the building until NYSEG okays all of the gas ventilation and gas line repairs. All the gas lines, all the gas meters have been shut off. And as far as I know, as of 5 o'clock, George Smith is the contractor that's going to be making the repairs, and that involves putting 3 electric hot water tanks in because he doesn't have, there's not existing chimneys in the building to legally vent from, and then making repairs to the existing chimney to vent 3 gas furnaces, making repairs to the 2 gas lines. Back to, John Q's never let me in the building, so fortunately, Officer Scott, I know him as Scott,
Bingham.
Bingham was there and stayed with me because John Q tried starting fights with everybody. But I went through the 4 apartments, and legally, there's only 2, 4, 6, 7 people that are allowed to legally occupy that building in total, based on the size of the apartments. And there was lists of violations about 10 pages long, other than over occupancy. So I'm citing John Q for all of that. And we know that there's at least 11 people living in the building because 9 went to the hospital and 2 did not. So that's the current status. Current status is nobody can reside in that building until NYSEG and I both say it's okay. Apparently the Red Cross is housing, they say, 15, 16 people that say they were residents of that building.
Now, my understanding is that, having read some of the law, you cannot go into a particular apartment without permission of the tenant.
Correct.
Got nothing to do with the landlord,
I,
unless the place is unless he wants you in there.
our
But you can go into any place that's a public area.
I can go into the public areas, but John Q is,
He can't stop you.
Well, he grabbed my arm one day and
Did you
told
get
me
a,
to
did you
get
get a
out.
police officer in the future?
And the tenants can let me in,
Mm-hmm.
but all the tenants said, I've talked to all of them repeatedly, they said, we're not gonna sign a piece of paper to give you entry, because then he'll come after us.
I only raised the issue because it's a perfect example of why we have a code enforcement officer and why we need laws to allow her or him to enter into a facility. I do have this from NICOM, it's property maintenance sample, and that includes a lot of what Tammy's had to deal with. One of the things we need to probably put together is what they recommend from NICOM as a task force, take a look at how we're approaching our own business. And make sure we have the assets and the wherewithal to do the job correctly. We know there are lots of apartments out there that aren't getting inspected, but there's a turnover in the people. And there's, the state says we've got to inspect them.
Right. Our village law says
Yeah.
they must be inspected.
But there are these little hurdles to get
And
over.
then the state of New York says they must be inspected, but
Yeah.
there's the hurdles of
Constitutional rights.
constitutional rights of the tenants, constitutional rights of the property owners, and then the tenants fearing the property owners just adds to the agony. I typically, the bad apartment houses, I get into them when the tenant gets their eviction notice, and then they come into my office with their eviction notice and says, where do you need me to sign? But, yeah, there's approximately 1,200 rental units in the village of Dansville, and I can tell you, I've seen maybe 600, not 1,200. All the rest I'm having trouble getting into.
So I think it's a problem more than she can handle or the police together. I think we need to advertise or at least start seeking let's say a property maintenance task force to address these issues and come up with how we can take care of them in a more efficient manner that's not overloading her or
Yeah,
Charlie's crew.
Charlie and I together could spend, each of us spend 40 hours a week just on getting into rental units,
And I know
dealing
this
with
week-
property maintenance.
I know this week you've been out there checking into property maintenance issues. Okay.
Have a nice day.
And that leads me into another thing here that's come up, and I had a call, I guess it was yesterday, concerning village employees on private property cleaning up the brush and everything. Now, that's been a long-standing policy on abandoned property. I'm not talking about occupied property. Because this person said, well, what if I failed to do it? And I said, then you'd get fined. But we do have a lot of properties in this town that are essentially abandoned. They've been foreclosed on. Nobody's taking care of them. We have two that are rather prominent at this point, more so than maybe we've had in the past. One's the property at the corner of Maury Ave in Maine, and the other's the King's Daughter's home that are essentially abandoned because the guy took off for England, wanted by the FBI. I'm not sure exactly what the status is on it, on those two properties, other than it is in the courts. And because one of them is a very visible spot down on Main Street, particularly with dogwood parade going right by it on Saturday. I've told the fellows, let's keep it maintained, at least from the outside. You can't go in the building. I think we need to start taking a look at that. We may or may not be doing it the right way. I don't know that we can recover any expenses since these are essentially abandoned properties. And that's what you would do, is you go after them, is you charge all this. Something I've got to talk with the county about. I don't know if they'll go along with that. Reimburses for mowing and maintaining the exterior of these properties. But we have enough as it is with the castle. That's a good example of what happens when you allow things to just get out of control.
Yeah, that.
And we don't need a major lot, a prominent house on Main Street of all places, and on Maury Ave, which is it's a collector, a connector road they call it, that's about to deteriorate and become whatever. Because even if the feds get it, it's going to be several years before it gets back on the market, if it's even suitable at that time. I don't know how long it took the coffee cup to get there. Quite a few years. Likewise with the King's Daughters. The building is, even though it has water damage, is still structurally a sound building. But I think it's a discussion we need to have, and need to take a look at what we can do and what we can't do, and make sure we're doing it right. You know, Scott and I knew we were going to probably take some heat and phone calls by having the guys down there, but as I told the fellow the other day, I think it's criminal if we didn't do it. As it does say in this manual anyway, not the law itself, is all vacant structures, premises, and land must be maintained in a clean, safe, secure, and sanitary condition as provided for in the Property Maintenance Code, which is the state law, so as not to cause a blighting problem or adversely affect the public health or safety. Well, I'm not sure about the public health and safety. It could be the safety eventually, but certainly the blight.
The former board went ahead and paid $4,000 to have the shoe factory warehouse building, at least everything from the ground up 10 feet boarded up and plywood painted and stuff. You gotta, somebody's got to step up and do it.
Yeah. Can't just say, well, it's not for us to do.
Right.
And I can guarantee if we don't do it and that property goes downhill, we're going to hear probably a louder scream. Or I should say properties. I want you to think about that. Certainly no decisions. I don't know if anybody has any comments this evening or...
Yeah, myself, I'd like to see the board give the code enforcement officer permission to issue violation certificates.
I can issue citations. There's the letter saying you're in violation is what I can issue. What?
appearance tickets.
Well, I need the appearance tickets thing.
Right, exactly.
Yes, yes.
What you need to
And you
do
got
is...
that thing in your mailbox, right?
Right.
And I
What you need is the ability
And I think you're the only one at the table that doesn't have a copy of this.
is to pursue this. And Charlie's got enough on his plate as it is, you know, and why don't we have our code enforcement officer do this?
It's one approach. I would like to take a closer look at it, not just at Tammy, but how other code enforcement officers do it in the county. I should say the other municipalities in the county do it.
I can verify the fact that West Sparta, when I sat on West Sparta's board, that their code enforcement officer issued violations and tickets, and it was up to the justices to pursue.
I can verify
but-
that that's how Washington does it. While I was their court officer, the code enforcement officer has Washington printed ticket forms and issues appearance
Right.
tickets and puts the documentation behind it, and it's up to the judge.
Right.
And then when it's abandoned, where he's going from there.
When the property,
It's abandoned.
if it's abandoned property, if it is a property owner, whether, no matter where they be,
You can't
the
locate them.
judge goes after it, can go after them. The only holdup I've ever found in over 6 years is if it's bank owned. We can't go after a bank. We're on the free.
You can't locate the property owner. That one.
We can always locate the property owner.
I thought that was the thing.
With what,
Was out of the country.
Right.
he's out of the country. Okay, but yeah, he's out of the country in the FBI. You're talking about where May and Maury. And the FBI right now has that property in limbo with a court case. So we can't go after the FBI or somebody out of the
It's
country.
essentially abandoned.
Yeah, and we can't go after a bank, but if I can find somebody, because they're living in North Carolina, and let their property just sit falling in here, we can send them an appearance ticket.
Yeah.
And then if they don't appear, the judge can put the fines to them.
But if they're not on the, if they're not part owner, then you can't find the owner because he's missing.
The guy in England right now, I think in banks,
Oh, we have to cross
bank-owned
that path.
properties are the only properties we can't get a hold of somebody.
And cross that path when we get to it.
And that's most of the abandoned properties are bank owned. Or,
Sadly.
yeah.
You have very few actual property owners that are within a day's drive of Dansville that can be forced to come back to court. You can't force somebody from out of state to come back for a code violation. There's no extradition for such thing. So they have to be in New York State to be forcibly brought back. And what you run into with some of these homeowners that are listed on tax bills is they've also got documentation in their hand from the bank saying, set foot on the property, we'll have you arrested. So they've been evicted, per se, by the bank. Rightfully or wrongfully, they've been evicted by the bank, told they can't set foot back on the property, but yet the bank has not gone through the process to have a foreclosure sale to actually get the property back. So there's quite a bit of gray area. For the most part, we're down to probably 15 or 20 buildings that are mostly bank owned and they're out-of-state banks, or a small handful, and I gave you like 3 or 4, that some private person's name is still attached, but that private person has paperwork from the bank saying don't step foot on the property.
Is that the case about the property on Leonard Street, the wall
40.
or not?
It's gone to a bank.
48, we've been sending notices on that to a guy for probably 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
And he also has been told to stay off the property. I think he lives down in Boca or Andover or
I
somewhere.
found out this past week that a bank owns that now, and the bank has a lockbox on it, and apparently somebody from the bank was actually out there last week. I have witnesses to them walking around the property, opening the lockbox, going inside, and then coming back out and locking the lockbox again.
That's where they saw me.
You were in a suit. These people were in a suit.
And hopefully maybe, I called the number on the window and told them to call me. There's options on if the building's not being maintained, if you want to buy the building. So I told them it's not being maintained and I want to buy it. Figuring they'd call me and offer me some sort of
But
direction
if
where to go.
there's a safety hazard in this building,
Yep. It's kind of like Plum Shoe Factory. It's up to us then to go board it up and
Board
make
it
it
up,
safe.
fence it off.
well, I think that's probably what we need to do.
Just, the board just needs to understand right now, some of these, we're not gonna get reimbursed on it.
It's a pretty complicated process.
Now, I'm not just talking about materials, you're taking the Scott's people and diverting them from something else they need to be doing.
But what if somebody gets in there and gets hurt?
Well, I understand, you say safety is an issue, that needs to be addressed. And, I guess we need to do something. Anyway, there's some food for thought, if that's not enough.
Well, along the line of discussion, do we know how many abandoned buildings are out there? Could we identify some portion of them to know how many we're looking at?
Right now, do I have a list of them? No. I can come up with a list. I can walk street to street and actually give you the list right now.
I think there'd be some value in knowing that, not only for the code, but for everybody who's involved in safety.
Yeah.
Ought to have that information.
I started a list on the mowing on Monday, and there's probably 16 buildings on that list on Monday morning. Now of interest enough, when we start to recognize, when the village recognizes that there's a need to mow, that's when the banks all gear up too, and the ones that are somewhat responsible. 13 Chestnut was on my list Monday morning. Tuesday morning was mowed. So,
So you
the
did the
bank,
mow list?
I do the mow list.
You did the mow list, you did the abandoned list, you did the mow list,
Pretty much.
then
Yeah, we mow 'em.
Then Trevor did the list and mow? Okay.
I do the list, I send out the letters, because the village
We
ordinance,
actually try to work pretty good together.
No, I know.
Hey, let's have one person talk at a time, Chief is speaking.
the village ordinance requires us to make a good faith effort to notify an owner. We use the tax bills for the most part to use for the identification of the owner. We send the last person on the tax bill some sort of note, we send them a letter saying the law's in violation, blah, 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 and we've now met our obligation. Those mailings end up with one of 3 things. It gets mowed, I get a call back from the person saying the bank told me, and here's the documentation, I can't be on the property. Or I get nothing but the letter back. And when I get the letter back, the list gets condensed because some of them's been mowed, the bank's mowed some, maybe isn't to the foreclosure point yet, so the owner still feels an obligation to come mow it. Or the neighbors get sick of looking at it during that week and they mow it. Either way, and I'll get neighbors that say, well, that house never got mowed, and I'm like, well, it got mowed all last summer, and they're like, well, that's because I did it. Well, you can't blame me if you mowed it, I don't know who mowed it, as long as it's mowed, it's all I care about. And then I end up with a list of probably 6 or 8, you know, there's, for the season, 6 or 8 houses for the season, that once, you know, what we do is I give the list to Scott, he goes out, he sends out the guys to mow those 6, 8, 10 houses, and then as I determine periodically throughout the summer that they need mowing again, I give them a heads up, now's a good time to go do them again. We don't do them weekly, probably every 10 to 15 days, to keep them in a moderate, you know, it's not as manicured as neighbors are, but it's down. And I mean, there's a guy on Twin Drive, you know, he got arrested for menacing, and he had some mental health issues, and they had him in a place in Bath, and 2 winters ago he walked away. No one's found him. He could literally be in the woods deceased. But his house is down there, it's gonna be mowing 29 Twin. And that's gonna be like that until the county takes their taxes here in the next year or two. So there's a variety of them around town, and we pretty much know what ones they are, and some of them are 3, 4, 5, 6 years. 48 Leonard Street's probably in a 5-year, 6-year ordeal now. And now that one, the basement wall's collapsed in the basement. It's got a hole as big as that set of windows into the basement, and 6 inches of standing water. So that's going to be one of the ones you're going to have to look at and make a decision as to whether you want Scott's crew to go up there. And now the good news is she's getting information that somebody was in there with a suit. So maybe some bank is getting ready to do something. But they don't typically advertise who they are, and they're pretty slow about passing on documentation to the tax authorities as to who's actually got possession of it. We check it regularly, keep track of the property, we try to keep track of the documentation to make sure we know who the last owner is, so we get after them, so there's somebody to be gotten after.
So do you keep a record of when it was mowed, how long it took to mow, and then is that like kept against the property, so that when somebody buys property, they got to pay that bill?
There's no way to recoup the money. There's a pretty involved legal process to try to get a judgment against somebody. Again, you're talking mostly out-of-state banks. You know, the nice thing would be is if some way there was a way to keep track of that cost throughout the year, and a tax auction, if the county would be so good to tack that on to the auction idea, but I don't think they're probably. They're not interested in getting involved in that. So it's pretty much on us. All I keep track of is the ones that need mowing, and the fact that we've made notifications to mow them. Ken will have an update in the narrative saying, you know, contacted DPW to mow. You know, 3 weeks later, contacted DPW to mow.
I think there'd be some value in assembling a list of the abandoned properties in Dansville, which ones are currently being mowed, and perhaps the justification or something that will tell us why we're mowing the properties. I'd like to see it personally.
Okay, so you want a list of abandoned buildings, and then who we can track by tax records, because that's what we've got as tax records, as to who wants to kind of claim the property but not do anything with it? Is that what you're looking for?
Well, that would be the next step of detail. Initially, I'm just looking for a list of properties that are currently abandoned and which ones we're mowing, and perhaps if we have some idea how long we've been mowing it, X number of years. Has it been, is this the first year, has it been 5 years? And I'm not looking for exactness here, just to give us some idea, and then we can look at what options are available to us if we don't want to continue, you know, doing what we've been doing. And maybe there are no options. I'm not saying there are any. There's some properties that, you know, depending on the location, et cetera, it may be in the best interest for the community to continue doing what we have been. But we need to have that information when we get asked, that we can provide an answer back to whomever's, you know, making the inquiry. Right now, we just kind of generalize.
Because I know, like, Leonard Street property, I get a call once a week religiously that there are raccoons fighting in there and living in there, and they want me to do something about it. But you can't do anything about it.
Critters.
I think if we went step forward, like on a property like that, and boarded up the building, that would assist, but
So who's going to take the lead on that? Are you going to take the lead on that, putting that list together?
I'll start with Charlie's mold list, and I'll add,
Okay.
you want just residences or abandoned commercial buildings, whatever it is.
Any
as long as
property, I would
it's
say, if
village
it's-
And it's abandoned.
Categorize them, you know, like you said, commercial and
Maybe I'll just
residential and...
Take a really thick notepad and,
Because there's
start
three
walking
issues.
every street.
One is blight, which applies mostly to the big properties we've been talking about, but you also have safety and health. So it'd be any property in the village that's been
camera,
abandoned.
notepad, and walk every street, take pictures of property that's.
I mean, if we're doing under the heading of safety and health, there's no problem with that. You know, we made a decision, that's what we need to do in the community.
With the shoe factory building, we were on it.
Yeah, and we started the process up here on Pine Street with that property. And it kind
The
of fell apart.
Ryan Street property went to court, and Mayor Vogt can assist you more with that, because once it goes to court, it's out of my hands, and it's into the attorney's.
There was a
hands.
judgment against the owner on that, and I've got John looking into it to see just where that stands. John Vogel. Because that has not gotten any better.
Right, yeah.
And it'd be nice to have along with that number of man hours.
That it takes me to do it.
No. For the mowing part.
Maybe you get that from
that's
Scott.
You can tell us how long it takes you to do it. No, I didn't mean no, but yeah, we'll listen to it. You know, but if you could, what would be reasonable? Next month department meeting, they have that? Is that reasonable?
We keep track of the time now.
He keeps track of the time mowing, so I'll get that from Scott.
It's a three-department effort here.
Yeah, it takes all three of us for everything.
But is it reasonable
Oh,
to bring
to
it back
make
to the
that
next
list by
department
next
meeting?
month?
Is that reasonable?
Yeah.
It's like 29, when they mold that today, because that's kind of one of the regulars. But if you want to go back to where you issue the slip to me, each time you want to mold, we'll just do it that way. Then we'll put the time right on your slip and then keep track of it that way.
Yeah.
That way, we've got a record of it.
Well, we need to do something, you know, we can talk about this thing until the cows come home. We need to do something about it.
As far as, I mean,
Well, we have to make an attempt to do something about it. To drive around this village and see these houses in this condition. What does that do for you?
you mean you go further and do
Yeah.
something else? Yeah, I agree with that.
Part of what I personally think, part of what you need to do is you need to start planning to buy one of these buildings every year and tear it down. Because for the most part, by the time most of these homes get to the point where it's the county selling them, they're being sold for nickels on the dollar. And somebody with a penny and a dream scoops them up, thinking they're gonna make $1 million on them. They watch too much HGTV. And they put just enough in them, and they find some individual who has less than ideal home building mindset or education, and they grab them up, and they live in them without the finances to truly bring them back up to shape, and it's temporary until they lose them again. The house on the corner of Leonard and Elizabeth Street next to yours is a prime example. That's been bought and sold 10 times in 10 years, and it's never gotten any better shape. And, 8 Lincoln Street is a house that's primed for tearing down. 48 Leonard Street is a house primed for tearing down. But at the end of the day, there's at least 2 other houses that I can think of that should have been taken down, that could have been gotten and torn down in less than $10,000 each. And we probably put $40,000 into a street for a house we could have took down for 10. So I mean, ultimately that's, we're looking to rehab some of these residential neighborhoods. The best way to rehab them is to take down some of these eyesores that are just well beyond what a reasonable, practical, intelligent homeowner or contractor wouldn't put any money.
Now, maybe I'm wrong, but don't you, Tammy, have to give them a certificate of occupancy?
That's what our village law says, the time of title transfer. I have to go through and do an inspection and state whether it's habitable for occupancy and make sure it's current to current fire code. But when they go through tax auction, The county doesn't do that. And I don't know who to go after, and I've talked to Pete about this. Who do I issue the citation to? The county for not getting me to inspect them before they send them for tax auction?
Before that person moves into the house, why they've got to have a certificate, don't they?
No, not in a single family home. Our village law says the time of title transfer, all residential properties are supposed to be inspected by me. It's to make sure that they're current to the tax roll, it's to make sure that they're fire safe, and to make sure they are truly habitable. But it's not getting done. I'm getting a quarter of them to call me and tell me the properties are being transferred, let's schedule an inspection.
Yeah.
I'm only getting a quarter of them that are occurring. And I've talked to Pete about this. Okay, if somebody doesn't do it, who do I cite and how do I go after them?
I think it's a topic we need to get in touch with.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, and when you're talking about, task force. I mean, this is the first thing it recommends in this book. Getting started. Getting started tackling nuisance property, create a property maintenance task force.
It's like so many things, it doesn't take much to get the ball rolling, and once you break the ice on a new process, the second time you do it becomes that much quicker and so on and so forth. Every time you start something new, it's an endeavor, but after you've done the first one, second one, third one, it starts picking up speed and it gets that much easier. And you do that in a few cases, and other folks start catching on, so the first few times, the first time I wrote a search warrant for a drug house, it was a huge all day, all night endeavor, and now I can do it, it's still an endeavor, 5 or 6 hours, but that's 5 or 6 hours, a hell of a lot less than 24 hours. And the same thing here, I think if we take a little bit of the low-hanging fruit and work our way through it, a year from now, there could be some differences in people's attitudes about what they let Tammy know that they've got a tenant change. And so on.
Yeah, all of our realtors here in town and all of our attorneys here in town know it, but I had a realtor come in to see the tax assessor today. I was printing out all those things and waiting for Hewlett Packard to answer and on the phone. And she kept asking, and I'm just listening to what she's asking the tax assessor, and finally said, I'm sorry, I'm being nosy. And you're here for what? She goes, oh, I'm with Lang Agency, and I'm listing a house here in town. I said, hi, I'm Tammy Salary Cover. Actually, I'm Tammy Salary. I don't even know what I'm asking right now. I give her my business card and the pamphlet that I made up for houses, the time of sale, and all the things that you need to know. And so we have village law that says you can't, every time there's a title transfer of a house, a residence of any kind in the village of Mansville, it must be inspected by me first. There's a fee of $50, and here's what I'm looking for. And she went, I'm so glad that I came in, because nobody in her agency out of Steuben County Planning Agency had any clue. So she took a bunch of information back to give all of her agents for any houses. But our local people got it, but if it's an attorney out of town, or if it's a private sale, or if it's a real estate company out of town, we're having trouble getting them on board.
And I think where this conversation gets stalled in past years that I've been part of it is we worry about how we're going to get our money back for sheets of plywood or the gallons of gas. I suggest strongly we skip over that part of the conversation, because the likelihood of getting that money back is next to zero, and we just accept it as a necessary evil and do it. And cite the ones we can cite when we can cite them, and everything else is we're just a victim of time. And time will pass and these things will change, but in the meantime, we're just going to have to step up and mow them and board them up and try to encourage banks to unload them. But maybe they need to unload it to us, because maybe they need to come down.
Yeah, there's a house over on Clay Street that I know a bank has just been sitting on for more than 6 years. I've had people come in my office and say, how can I buy it? I think I'd like to buy it. It's sitting there empty for more than 6 years. Fortunately, it's not in a state of deterioration right now. It was in good shape when they foreclosed on it, but once the bank has it, I don't know where to go with it. I don't know how to help us accelerate the process.
Well, I think it's something we need to look at.
Anything else for the code officer?
How's Taco Bell coming?
Public hearing next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, public hearing for the Taco Bell and for the animal hospital. And from what I know, everything looks fine, except for the fact that Taco Bell wants 2 30-foot high signs, one in the front building and one in the back. That's a whole other story. But the building will be there, they just might not have as much signage as they want.
What about Dairy Queen?
How did you hear about that?
That's out in the town.
That's out in the town.
Okay.
As of this morning, I spoke to the property owner, and he has submitted all of the requirements, including the $35,000 to Dairy Queen. And now Dairy Queen will look at the site, and they will say, yes, we will come, or no, we won't. It's up to Dairy Queen now. And if they say no, apparently he does get his money back, that's a plus. But he said if they say no, he's going to move on to the next possible franchise. We discussed Long John Silver's.
Okay.
So, that's up right now. The town board is good with, they have to make the zoning change to a whole strip along that road. They're good with that. It's just in Dairy Queen's hands right now. They're gonna be happy with that site.
What about
The old Jimmy Meter place on Foster Wheeler Road, right beside Bennett, the old Bennett Construction place.
So it's an ice cream place now, or has been.
Yes, Paula's Ice Cream Shop. It's the only thing in there in one little corner of this big building complex. But if Dairy Queen comes in, I know the general manager is going to be Paula. Anything else?
Thank you.
Yep.
Sure, you doing the ambulance?
Yes, sir.
You're on.
Apologies from Scott. The county was very tardy in getting last month's run numbers to him. He believes they're about the same as the previous month, 85-ish. About the same coverage, about 93% of the calls are recovered. And just an FYI on Scott, he has changed careers.
Again?
He is now in training to become a New York State Department of Corrections officer. So for the next 2 months, Scott will be in the academy for that.
Don't they ship them out of the area
Yeah.
for about 2-3 years, something like that?
Yeah. So for right now, from like late Sunday afternoon through Friday evening, he is out of town. He is reachable by phone after about 6 p.m. And then on weekends, Matt Wolf will be stepping up to cover his stuff. I'll keep an eye on things. If we need to appoint another person to help out, we will certainly do that.
Will you be attending the Tuesday meetings?
Uh,
Or you have somebody there?
Yeah, we'll make sure we try to get somebody there. This Tuesday is going to be an issue. We have open house that night.
Okay.
We are having an open house from 6 to 8, Tuesday night at the base. Do some equipment demonstrations, hopefully take some applications. So if you guys want to sneak down early, I'll be there. I'll give you a tour of the base and real quick. Certainly encourage it. Been busy really as of late. The calls on Sunday, and from what I can pick up over the scanner and stuff like that, our first ambulance was actually out on a call when that came in. So we had our ambulance. Whalen is only able to secure one crew. So we had Whalen's ambulance, Camp-Rega's ambulance, and then before everything was over, our first ambulance was back and also did transports. I know there was a real issue with ALS in the county. There was like almost nobody available.
Really?
Yeah,
It's unusual.
it happens. It happens. Either the call volume eats up the ALS, and if they go to the city, they're out for a couple of hours. More personnel issues, nobody to staff. So that's.
Were some of them in pretty rough shape?
What's that?
Were some of them in pretty rough shape?
I'm not sure. I was not on scene, so I can't speak for that. All I know is that they did transport
And
a ton of people.
Chief Chamberlain told me that on site there was one confirmed CO poisoning, and the other 8 were suspect enough that they took them. And they were there for, I was there for a couple hours, and they were there for half an hour before I got there and several hours
Yeah.
after. And
Yeah.
it was kind of chaos. I mean, enough that they had closed down the street and everything.
Yeah, it's a wake-up call.
Yeah, and then Friday, the big East Hill fire. We had both of our ambulances up there. They had the gator up there. I thank Chief Chambo for actually specifying to bring the gator. We appreciate it, getting it out, and they're seeing more and more value of having that around for the field fires. Not only just to shuttle water out to the fire crews, drinking water, but in case one of the old guys goes down, you don't want the other old guys trying to drag him back across the field. So yeah, we're working really well with the fire department on that. So, and then, like I said, we've been busy. Our Explorer program is moving along. I believe we got the first draft coming out, which was basically the bylaws and stuff that Gates Ambulance.
Who's going to head that up?
We've got Henry Marlowe,
Okay.
John Seward, and Marlene Lohman. And I think once it's presented and it's accepted and stuff like that, we'll have others volunteering to help. I know we've got at least 2 kids that are ready to sign up. So, one is a son of 2 of our members. So he's been around there. So looking forward to getting that going. I think it's going to be good. So Maddox stuff, I don't really have much on that. As far as what we've been tracking and stuff like that, I'm not sure if I told you the last time, we had 8 calls from January 1st till the end of March that for whatever reason never got billed out of Maddox. My treasurer, who is actually she's actually tracking all of these, contacted Maddox. 4 of them were pulled and sent for processing. They're not quite sure what happened there. 4 more, there was information missing. 3 of them, they figured out how to get them pulled back, get the summary attached to them, to be able to get them forwarded for processing. The 4th one, I'm not quite sure how they've made out on that. That one was giving them real issues. Just remember to err is human, and really screw up takes a computer. So they are unsure on how a few of these things happen because in the system it's not supposed to happen, but it did.
So how did you catch that?
What she did was she went back through.
Here's
Yeah, she went back through. She's actually heading up the tracking on this stuff. Every single run that was generated. She went back through, found the names, went back through the billing that came from Maddox to see, okay, this was good, this one wasn't. So, 8 runs right there that if we didn't look, we would have never seen anything.
Have you been looking like that every month?
Yes, yeah. Actually, every time a chart is generated, she gets an email. As soon as it gets locked, she gets an email. She will go into EMS charts. She'll pull the information. to check billing information and the signature page for permission to treat. Make sure that that's there. It goes on to the QA level, which is they check for proper protocols being done and everything. That's Scott and the two mats. They check that stuff. So it's one less thing that they have to check. So that way she can start the tracking right then. As the sheets come out, as MedX generates the reports at the end of the month, she pulls that information out of her mailbox and goes through and checks out, okay, this one's been billed, this one's been billed, this one hasn't, okay, contact MedX, okay, this is one number 123, patient Smith, what's the status on it, why hasn't it been billed?
So you also know that what you build it for, if they're building it correctly, right?
That process there is on their part, and that all has to do with the EMD code that is generated, for that particular incident, which that comes out of dispatch with the information that they have, and then the general complaint that the medic puts in there. That stuff's all there. As soon as medics gets it, it says, okay, it's a BLS any emergency call. It's a BLS emergency call. Or if there's ALS involved, it's an ALS level 1 or level 2. And that's how it's built.
And you can verify that by your
Well, I'm not quite sure what EMD codes trigger what categories, but that's all in the medical stuff itself. So as long as the EMD codes are kind of match what's there, that's what it gets billed as.
How about the audit? How is that going? They've been working with you on that?
As far as,
Because I think they were going to contact.
I have heard absolutely nothing from,
I contacted the auditing company yesterday, as a matter of fact, and Randy Shepard got back with that one little message. All they needed was that one statement, right?
That big statement from May 2012.
And
So we got that to him yesterday.
but he didn't say anything else about the needs. I just asked him how long it was going to be before we got to the audit. So if he hasn't contacted you, I don't know what they're doing as far as the audit goes.
yeah, have heard absolutely nothing.
Thanks, Jerry. Before we go to Charlie, there's nobody here from the fire department. We do have
I've got a few things.
okay.
In your folder, there is, I think that's what you were getting around to, there's an item in there from, that the fire chief dropped off today. It's got to do with the Knox box. That's for ease of getting into facilities. Without having to carry a wad of keys for every business in the community. They thought that, the fire department has their meeting tonight, so that's why the chief isn't here, but he thought that maybe Glenn Camuto would be over, the assistant chief, but apparently couldn't get away. So we'll see what they have next week, but go ahead and take a look at it, and just be prepared to ask questions.
I talked to Glenn briefly this afternoon. Does what he gave to you guys have pictures of Knox boxes at all?
I don't know, I haven't had a chance to really look at it yet.
I can get you pictures, because I sat with Glenn months ago and talked about this. Pictures of what Knox boxes are and what they look like on buildings. And so that if it's a commercial building open to the public, they have one of these boxes at the front door, and the entire fire department, well, not just the heads of the fire department, have one key. They'll get them into any one of these, and in that has the key to get into the building, so they're not smashing down doors. So it's a good idea. New York State Building Code says any new commercial buildings must have them on them. So like our new CVS will have them on it. Our new Taco Bell will have it on it. But any existing building
Not required.
doesn't have it on it unless they do more than a 50% of the square footage renovation. And most of our commercial buildings are not doing that. So the fire department's hoping for some assistance from the village board and local legislation to get it onto all the commercial buildings, because it's actually less than a $500 investment for the property owner. It would cost less to get one of those installed on your building than it would to replace your front door.
How were the structures selected on page 1? I mean, is that according to some written code, or is that just,
You don't know what he gave you, honey, so
here,
I'm sorry.
I'm looking at number 1 through 4 on the bottom.
Probably be a question to ask him next week when, or.
They, honestly, that would, to come up with what, the buildings that would need them on it, that would be the fire department and myself sitting down and determining, is this building a commercial use or an industrial use? Because the state of New York, my building code determines what a building is considered: a public assembly, an industrial use, a commercial mercantile, a commercial business.
But there's something at the state level that would correspond with this?
There is already law
Okay.
and New York State Building Code.
We're not
109
rewriting
books.
anything? Or
No,
we're just bringing it into the
We're-
community here?
no, we're just trying to bring it to existing buildings.
Right.
They're trying to bring it to existing buildings.
We're not adding anything to it? What currently, the code that currently exists, are we adding anything to that
Yes,
that's unique to Dansville in this ordinance?
it's not unique to Dansville because most other communities are doing it, but New York State law right now says all new commercial buildings must have it. That's only been for the last 3 years. All new commercial buildings must have a Knox box. And any existing commercial building or building that falls into this category, those categories, if they do more than a 50% square footage renovation, must do it.
Is that specified on here? I haven't read through the.
No, it just got handed to us this
Okay.
afternoon.
Well, as in anything, when there's already a state code existing, if we're going to add to that, I'd like to know what is being added,
Okay,
first of all.
okay. I can get you a copy of what the state code says on, what the current New York State code says, building code says, for new buildings, this is what you must
Well,
do.
Whomever has responsibility for this document,
That's the
That's
fire
the fire
department.
department, but
fire department, so we need to know what exists at the state level and what we are adding here specifically to the community of Dansville in this document. I'm not necessarily saying your responsibility.
well, I can get you,
I need to see that,
I can get to Glenn, the section of New York State building code that says new buildings must do it.
you know.
Okay, I can get that part to Glenn, and then Glenn can tell you, because I know he's done a lot of research. He pulled all of this from other communities in western New York that have gone in and said, we want all of our buildings, even the existing ones that aren't being renovated, to do this. That's where he got that document.
I mean, our attention, as I view it, isn't necessarily with what's pre-existing from the state. It's what we're doing here specifically for the community of Dansville, recognizing that he's taking bits and pieces from what other communities are doing, but we need to know that. I do.
Okay.
Are we adding another cost to the business owners for this lock box?
Yes, it's less than $500, but it would be a cost
Yeah.
for a business that, Tony's Pizza, they're not doing anything to their build, they're not doing any renovations or anything, they're not adding on, they're not building a new building. And I've talked to Glenn about this, if we say, yes, they must have it, we're now giving them anywhere from $250 to about a $450 bill that they've got to do,
Yeah.
that they wouldn't do otherwise. Right now, any new building,
Yeah,
the
I
last
understand. I
3
understand.
years is
Yep.
gonna get it anyway. It's up to you guys to decide, do you wanna just go with what the state already has set up, new buildings get it? If it's enough of a renovation, then they have to do it at that time and pick them all up that way? Or at least maybe even put something out to all these buildings that would fall under this, to the owners, and say, hey, would you consider this voluntarily to assist the fire department in saving your structure?
Is there any grant money available for something like that?
I don't know that, but maybe the fire department would. Or maybe you guys could find out next Wednesday, that grant that you're going to.
No, that's got nothing to do with this.
I didn't know if there would be grant money.
That's
for that.
water infrastructure.
Oh, okay, I know it was a grant thing. So, the fire department would tell you if any fire department grants could cover the cost of that. That would be good to look into. There are fire department grants that would cover the cost of installing these on existing buildings, you know? The cost of the Knox box would be less than if the fire department had to smash in those glass doors on the movie theater to replace the doors, you know, things like that. But right now, I have no code to say, or village law or state code to say you must put it on. But maybe we should at least go to all these property owners and go, we're not going to say you have to, but maybe you should consider it.
Well, I think definitely it's a good thing, to at least
You need to
offer,
publicize it.
Absolutely.
Get the feedback from the community.
Yeah.
you know.
I can get you what the state currently has in the building code and have Glenn tell you where you picked everything
Yeah,
from.
we're all set. Okay,
Okay.
yep.
One other thing here, or actually several things under one title, fire department. Friday's fire that Jerry had mentioned up on the side of the hill, it occurred right around noon hour. And they say there were a number of companies there. I forgot how many fire companies. There was a lot of fire companies that were up there. The thing was spreading up the hill towards the residences up there. Some of the trucks came in over the top of the hill. Some came in along the side of the old railroad bed. What happened though is there was one department, I think it was Sparta, lost 3 lengths of hose. There was damage to a leach field up at Jim Beecher's by another company. And another had a problem with their truck where they damaged an axle, their winch, and hit a pole. And I only bring this up because there's potential insurance issues here. It was all mutual aid. You know, I think as far as the axle, winch, and the hitting the pole, that was sort of at least the winch and the hitting the pole was self-inflicted. But we have to find out what, you know, what mutual aid covers. Usually if you go into another fire district and you have a problem, that fire district takes care of it. So just so you're aware of that, I know Jim Beecher's getting some estimates on the damage to his leach field up there. Chambo said there wasn't any problem on the hose, that his people could replace that. But just so you're aware, and did he ever come by?
He called me just briefly, and
Okay.
he was going to touch base with the rental agency
Okay.
quick and just give him the heads up, but we didn't get to
Yeah,
talk.
we haven't received anything from anybody, but that's just so the board's aware that this is a potential issue. But it was another, it was started apparently by a cigarette from one of the workers up on the cell phone tower. The fire started right there and worked its way up the side of the hill. So then now there comes the question of how liable are they? So we'll let the insurance companies fight that one out.
They're working on the tower of their building permit
Yep.
to add antennas to it.
That's a town problem. We got enough of our own. Anyway, so just so you're aware of that, I say I forgot the number of departments he said were involved, but they came from all the way over from around Canadice and everything else. I suspect more because there just weren't enough people in the area.
Too, maybe it had something to do with the style of truck, you know, more of a grass brush truck,
Yeah.
drive truck versus a pumper. I'm guessing, you know,
Well, the fire-
everybody has one, so they all kind of tend to.
Fire was moving up the hill and it split. It formed a Y going up through there, so there was,
A long time has been fire on East Hill.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff up there. It didn't take long for it to ignite. I remember them as a kid, but now there are houses up there.
Yeah, back when they knew.
So kudos to the firemen for showing up. Now, let the insurance companies fight it out. Anyway, that's all I had on the fire department. I guess before we get into police, I'd like to bring up one thing because I see Jess sitting over there. As you all know, we have an issue with the registrar. Do you know what the status on that is, Charlie?
Probably adjourned for a month. I know it's adjourned, it'd be typical for it to be at least a month.
Okay.
And during that time, I would assume it's a felony, so the DA's office would transfer the case, could transfer the case to county court, or they could come up with some resolution in the meantime to leave it here locally and have it settled here.
Anyway, I believe, and you should have it, I hope I put it in your folders, a letter from John Vogel explaining that it would probably be in our best interest to remove the individual forthwith.
I don't have that one.
No, I don't have it.
Don't, not a check. Okay, got it right here. Dick, Anthony and Pat. My apologies. It's a public issue, so I mean, it's freedom of information. You can have this stuff. Now, there's been an arraignment. But I'm not worried right now about what's going on the legal side. It's just that we do have a position that's occupied by a person that, if nothing else, has not discharged their duties efficiently. And we do need to get somebody in there, if not in the full position, at least as a temp, or as a deputy, I should say.
Has the person resigned?
No, she has not. There's been no indication that she's intending to resign, but we do not need to wait for that. It's up to the board how you want to handle that part of it, which doesn't need to be decided tonight. However, I think we do need to get somebody in the office to start doing the work. Would you like to comment on it there, Megan? I mean, Tim is doing it right now for
Tim is
nothing,
doing it right now.
but it's overwhelming for him.
Yeah, he's not on village payroll. He shouldn't have to do it because Doris was his deputy for a number of years. He filled out the paperwork with the state so that he could be the deputy registrar. I don't believe that he will keep doing it. I feel that the village should keep it. I would like to see Jess become the village registrar. Doris worked 10 hours a week. I would say the workload would be at least that. We did discover that Doris quit doing her job back in January, so I know there's a lot of, she was here, but didn't do a lot of the birth certificates. I don't want to say she quit doing her job. She did the death certificates. She didn't do the birth certificates. So Tim's been trying to catch that up. I think there's going to be a lot more catch up. We do need to get somebody in that position ASAP. There's forms that need to be filed with the state. It's not something I'm personally prepared to take on. I'd like to see it go to Jess.
And you contacted county personnel this afternoon, but don't have a
I did.
answer for everything yet.
We will have an answer tomorrow as far as part-time versus full-time. This would bump Jess, if we stuck with the 10 hours, it would bump Jess to 34 hours at this point. We have a lot of projects going on right now. We have the wastewater treatment plant, composting is a completely separate project, and we have 2 grants. That's taking up the majority of my time. So yeah, I would like to see Jess in the office a few more hours, and maybe even a few more hours down the road. There's a lot coming through our door right now. Tax season is right around the corner. It's busy. So I would like to take care of this as soon as possible, preferably prior to June 1st.
There's a couple of ways we can handle this. Okay, I'd like to get her started on it, if that's the board's pleasure, as soon as possible, as Megan says. At least if not the registrar right off the bat, at least as the deputy, so you can go ahead and send the paperwork into the state.
Thanks to Jess, we are doing a phenomenal job getting caught up in that office down there. I don't want to see it fall behind again.
And then we can take a look at how we want to go forward with the registrar position. You know, we can talk about more next week if you want. If I can get a motion to accept Jess as the deputy, get started.
I'd like to hear what the county has in response tomorrow first.
So what you're proposing is to move her from 24 to 40 hours per week?
Not necessarily.
No, he's 34.
Be adding 10 hours if we stayed with the number of hours that Doris was working.
So it'd be 34 hours a week.
Mhm.
What is the county gonna give us for information?
They're going to let us know the difference between full-time and part-time hours, what
If these are
qualifies
two
as
positions, do
full-time
they
hours,
qualify as one or the other? But I think,
Right.
you know, frankly, it goes right along with what was discussed earlier on another position. We need to stop worrying always about money and start getting the work done the way it needs to get done. And that's the way I look at it. You know, you can worry about money so much you get nothing accomplished.
I would like to see Jess,
Can we get the information and vote on it Tuesday?
Well, that's just a few more days because she can't legally work in there until she's been
right.
put on the state rolls.
I'd like to see her put on there and start temporarily.
I have no problem with waiting till Tuesday.
I think we should hear from the county personnel before we move forward. So we make sure we're doing it correctly.
I'm not sure it's going to change anything, but I'd like to have the information.
Is Tim on board to continue doing the work?
I have no idea. He
Okay.
didn't indicate that there was a problem the other day, other than he has a lot of work. But,
My concern is that if we lose Tim and he stops doing it, we don't have anybody to do birth and death certificates.
He is the deputy, though, right? For now.
who? Tim has nobody.
He's a deputy for now.
He is,
in
but
this
he doesn't,
position.
right, he is, but he doesn't have to
Yeah.
do it. He's not being compensated for it.
Yeah.
And it's just a temporary thing.
Well, we hope it's temporary. Very temporary.
Again, I'd like to see Jess go in a temporary position.
So you're
Put that in
looking,
form of motion.
looking to move Jess into registrar's position 10 hours per week.
Well, I would say that's probably what we would need, yes. We don't know because the job hasn't been getting done the way it should have been getting done.
Yeah.
We're guessing 10 hours would be
I mean,
adequate.
what's actually the proposal, to move her from 24 to 34
Well,
under the umbrella
the issue,
of a deputy, and then have her do the registrar job? Is that the proposal?
you can either have it as a separate
Right.
position, or you can put it all underneath the
Okay.
clerk's office.
At least, as a temporary deputy registrar, and then in the event that, and Tim shouldn't have to do it. He's coming in weekends, he's working late, he shouldn't have to do it. It's not fair. We should have somebody for the village that is doing it. And it just, we're saying temporary so that if Tim decides he's not doing it, we are not turning people away. We still have to file the paperwork with the state, and we can't do that without your.
Well, it's Wednesday, we're only asking you until
Right.
next Tuesday to act on it.
If we,
Yeah,
if
that's,
we, if we
hey,
put
that's
her,
fine with me.
That's all we're asking.
I'm just asking the questions, that's all,
Yep.
and giving my opinion, that's it.
Okay,
if we put her in there temporary wise, she could at least get her feet wet.
well, she could probably still go over and get trained by Tim.
Right.
I guess the other part is, how can you have two? You haven't terminated one. So if-
No, what we're talking right now is the deputy registrar.
Right.
I would say that next week, we should be terminating the registrar, the current registrar. We can just, if you want, just move Jess into that position, and she wouldn't have to be the deputy.
I just soon wait till Tuesday and make a decision about making it permanent.
Okay?
That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. We're going to
makes
permanently,
sense.
we're going to permanently need somebody there instead of making it temporary until some cutoff point. let's get the information Tuesday and be looking to move somebody into that position permanently. We need somebody there.
Guess we ought to ask Jess how she feels about it.
Well, that's true. Well, I was hoping that's kind of your thinking, but you're absolutely right. We'd like to have your input.
I'm more than willing to help out, learn and do better.
I mean, were you looking to move in there temporarily to provide that level of support with
Absolutely.
the idea of having somebody else come in, or you'd like to move in there permanently?
I would like to move in there permanently.
Okay.
Don't mind doing it temporary while everything is kind of shifting around. And Tim, I know, is crazy busy and needs the help because
I'm
I've seen
thinking
him
Tuesday we
going.
could act on a permanent change.
Yeah, we could just do that. That'd save.
Town register too?
No, she was at both.
She was both.
Right.
Mhm.
So, okay, so Tim will stay the town register? How does that work?
No, he wouldn't be anything other than unless he wants to help out. See, right now he's not official. He's officially the deputy, but he doesn't get paid for it.
But who does the town stuff then?
Doris?
Doors, but they don't do it as a town. They do it as a village. The town does not have a registrar.
Okay, that's what I wanted. Okay. So you do
Now-
village.
If the,
Go ahead. No.
If the county comes back to us, and I don't know enough about it, but let's say that they come back and say, well, for the additional 10 hours, she is going to be considered a full-time employee. Well, she's currently working 24. We need a registrar, which is going to take 10. Why not just up it to 40? That's kind of my thinking. Let's see what they come back. I mean, if they come back and they say 32, 33, 34 hours, that part-time status is gone. Now, she's considered full-time. I don't know at what point it is. That's why we need that information.
Mhm.
If it is, then that's something else we need to look at. Right?
I was always under the assumption it is 32 hours. After 32, you're full-time.
I don't know what that number is.
Well, the issue that comes up is if you have two different positions, you're working.
Two
You're
different
still paid by
positions.
the
It's all
village,
under
so I
what-
Well, it depends how we, it's going to end up being what we decide, really.
Okay. I understand.
But I just wanted the information, that's why I had Megan give them a call. So
Well, I'd like
everybody,
to
so we
add-
have the options.
I'd like to add, if it takes Doris 10, it's going to take her 5, because that girl's amazing. She blows my mind every time I give her a little project.
I don't think you're helping her out here, Scott, to be
Yeah,
honest
I'm
with you.
sorry, but
I appreciate it, and Jess appreciates the comment, but you're not really helping her out at all,
well, she's pretty quick. Well, I'll take her for the other 5.
Okay. Alrighty, that's all I had. We'll wait till we get the information. If we get it in a timely manner before the weekend, I'll email it to you. We'll have Megan do it.
We should have by next Tuesday, right?
Oh, yeah, we'll have the information from the county
Yeah.
tomorrow. She was gonna call me
Yeah,
tomorrow.
just email it to us or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's fine.
I guess police?
You're up.
Is it Simone Ferrara? Is it Ferrara? Is that her name?
Salome?
Salome. I know
Salome.
how to say it wrong. She was in the other day, and I don't know, did she give you a flyer about, I got it downstairs, so I had it in my hand when I was playing.
South Smart Grove?
Yeah,
Yes.
and just wanting to block off that little block of Washington Street, I think.
Oh, no, this was that, later in the year thing.
Maybe,
We're talking two different things.
Are we?
She contacted me, but not about what you're,
there was something that they were gonna have a band and things, and
Yes.
a good parking lot. You might need a
I
couple
think, isn't that like
barricades.
September, October?
Is it that far away?
Yeah, it
All
is,
right.
but it's the same thing, I'm
I'll
thinking
I'll
of.
find the flyer again to see if we can do.
I haven't seen that.
All right, maybe it's not maybe right away. If it is, I'll talk about
She contacted me on another thing that's called Smart Growth.
it. Dogwood Parade here on Saturday. The local dance academies usually do a demonstration at 4 o'clock. Is that still good to go like every other previous year? Works for you guys, works for me.
Works for us, or it does for me, anyway. We haven't had a vote, so I guess I can't speak for the vote.
We've had, the courts have sent a couple community service workers our way, and we had Scott up for some ideas and things. We basically use them to rake the leaves off the GCC fence. They picked up a half dozen big green garbage bags of litter from the parks, Main Street, a couple trips. They sanded down and painted the Little League benches, so we're getting some work out of them. Hopefully this week I get a little more out of them.
Can they operate them more?
We try to stay away from power equipment lab. Yeah. It's pretty much all hand raking, picking,
Okay.
hickory
Hickory hand.
Yeah, we did that pretty much. Planning on sending Officer Burley and Officer Grease to Texas next week to pick up a drug defendant that fled the state. And he has quite a bit to lose. I think his felony offender status puts him at risk of being going away for life this time. So he decided Texas was the place to go, and after we had a couple of informants that owed us some favors and a little bit of information here and there, they finally located him. We passed that information, located him in Texas. So they will be going down there next week to pick him up, bring him back, and the expenses will be reimbursed by the district attorney's office.
No, that was my next question.
Yeah.
Who's paying for that?
Yeah, the DA's office somehow gets tagged with all that. I'm not sure where they
Oh,
get the
good.
money from. But I've got the voice message from Vic Rowcliffe saying, yes, we handle flights, rentals, food, blah, 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 blah. So I'll be saving that I'll be saving that voicemail until we get it reimbursed. So that's good. That we
They go in uniform?
Not usually.
What-
I've done it before. I've gone to North Carolina, Arizona, Colorado to pick up prisoners, and the pilots are usually pretty strict. They want you kind of under the radar. Yeah.
What about weapons? Is that an
Yeah, they
issue?
take those. Yeah, they're both certified to fly with guns, and it's a pretty, some letters and different things. It's a relatively simple process
Okay.
for us. So we'll be working through that detail. Officer Burley's currently in a drug investigation school, same one that Officer Reese attended last year. It's beneficial to us for several reasons, not only the drug aspect of it, but they do some work with search warrants and active shooter situations, which are also valuable from our standpoint. Not that we want to find ourselves in the position of a school issue, but the guys get extra training that's kind of dual purpose, not only for drugs, but for school violence and such.
Where would something like that be held?
That's Albany.
Albany?
Yeah, for 1 week. It's pretty tough to get into. I've been around a long time, and senior investigator Paul Kelly from the state police has always been pretty good to me. He works for the CNET organization, Community Narcotics Enforcement Team, and we've been doing stuff together for 25 years and some silly stuff. So, but he's getting ready to retire, so he's trying to help us out and get a couple guys to that school. So he did. Officer Reese was able to go a couple months ago, and Officer Burley's in there now. And it's a good school, and it's a tough one to get because the waiting list is far. I can't believe we were that far up the waiting list. I'm thinking he helped us out a little bit. So, and hopefully that will help us not only locally, but maybe at some point we'll be able to be full partners of the County Drug Task Force, and rather than partial partners, this will be part of that. I don't know if anybody's noticed, well, I know some people have noticed, that the new police cars arrived. We got to send it out to get it striped and the equipment put on it, and so on and so forth. I've requested our 2013 money from the sheriff, so that should be showing up probably any day. I'm anticipating it being $7,000 to $8,000.
Pardon me.
The car cost $26,147. I'm guessing we should be within a couple $100 one way or the other of the purchase price, and maybe even a few $100 over the purchase price. So it would appear that the car will have been paid for. I truly believe the car, as I said before, will be paid for completely through DWI reimbursement from the guy's efforts downstairs. Now that is 3 years worth, 11, 12, and 13's money. But we've always tried to do that over the years to try to help offset the cost of the taxpayers replacing the police cars, and we've done pretty good with it. So that's down there to get that done. Now there still is the issue of $4,000 or $5,000 worth of equipment to put on it, because sad to say, when they change models, some of that stuff just won't flop over. But again, I still believe that I'll be able to get that money out of the current budget, robbing Peter to pay Paul here a little bit in there, from one item to another, and we'll be able to cover those costs in the current budget. So at the end of the day, equipping that car will have absolutely no additional taxpayer cost outside of what has been budgeted or being reimbursed from the DWI funds. On that note, DWI's kind of a bit of a spike this year. At this time last year, we had charged 6 people with driving intoxicated, either in alcohol or drugs, and right now we're at 18. So I'm not sure what the spike is, but it's in drug drivers. I think we've got 5 drug drivers. One person who was drugged on marijuana, I believe, another one who basically said, you name it, I've got it in my system, which is pretty sad for a 19-year-old kid. And then another woman who comes to mind that was pain medication. She was driving from Buffalo back to Pennsylvania, ended up in Dansville with everybody and their brother pointing their finger at her and saying she's all over the place. And there was a couple others, but I can't think of the details. Along the same DWI process, we'll be sharing in the enforcement efforts for Memorial Day weekend. The funding provides us with 16 hours of extra DWI effort for that weekend, so we'll be participating in that. And there's no lack of business downstairs. I've got a partial report there, still got to work out the details as far as how many of this, that, and the other thing, but those reports are still being finalized. And then I just threw you the latest list of who's who and what they've been arrested for. Look down through there, a lot of assaults, menacing, weapons issues. It doesn't include everything. We had a guy the other night, came unglued in one of the bars and punched a guy in the face with a cue ball, opened him up, and then while that guy was being taken to the hospital by his friends, the guy waited outside for the friends and him to leave, tried to go after him again. The friend tried to keep them all separated. The friend got a brick under the chin for it. And a huge bite on his arm, Some people are just animals. So the fun and games continue. Plenty of business. Guys are working hard, though. Guys are working hard. That's all I have at this point. Thanks.
You gave us this list of people. There aren't any dates on it. Could you
Since
give us a
the last time we
timeframe?
got together, it's been the last 20, 30 days maybe.
So this is all like April and May?
No, it would be, remember we got together the last time, probably towards the end of April. Maybe there might be a couple things in there from May.
So end of April to May.
Yeah, there was 121 people charged with 197 offenses. So obviously some of the stuff we don't bother even reporting on this because it's just too boring. What some people put in the newspaper and what we put in the newspaper are drastically different. Some people put all their traffic stuff in the newspaper. For us, that's too boring, so we don't bother. We've got enough other stuff, sad to say, to make up for the boring traffic business.
I had another question. When we were talking about the overtime for the officer that worked part-time, you said there was a precedent.
Yeah, there was no overtime for him. It was straight time. He was paid some overtime on some weeks if he worked over 40
Right.
hours.
But he was part-time, and he's 20 hours a week. And you said it was a precedent that part-time employees worked
We've trained our
40
people.
hours.
We've trained our people at 40 hours, yes.
Okay. And when is, could you give me some examples of that precedent?
I think the last time would have been Officer Schaefer, I believe.
Officer Schaefer, she worked part-time?
She was part-time and she was trained full-time.
And when was that timeframe?
She's been here probably 3 years. Yeah. Yes.
And before that?
Well, whoever was most recent since then.
Burley
Yeah, probably.
or Jesse Cole.
Maybe Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard to remember who we hired full-time, who we hired part-time. There was a point in time where we just flat out hired people full-time. And then, for whatever reasons, things have gotten difficult, and we've hired part-time, and with the idea of putting them on full-time. So,
But again, this one, you would have put on full-time if he was available. If he was eligible for full-time.
right, we need to move to the village.
So when he wasn't eligible, you just had to work full-time, right?
Right, because we have a choice of either, if you train someone for, say, 20 weeks, you have a choice of training them full-time for 20 weeks, or you have a choice of training them part-time for 40 weeks. That gets a little long.
But he wasn't eligible to work full-time.
He was eligible for full-time, contract provided and such.
No.
We're going to continue to disagree on this, Pat, so there's no point in us really having a discussion.
Okay. And the other thing is, Officer Brees, his police union said that the police union agrees with that it's okay that they violated the contract, and he would give that to us in writing. So So I would like that letter in writing with the signature of all the
I
police
think the,
officers.
I don't think the letter will be that the contract was violated. I think the letter will indicate that the contract was complied with, and as such, the union agrees.
I'll talk with him. Is he around tomorrow?
Yes.
He wanted to talk to me about something else, but I think
I
court's
think he
keeping
got
it.
tied up in court. He was hoping to come out, yeah.
I'll talk with him tomorrow.
I've got one other thing. Court security.
Yes.
That came up between myself and a justice here recently for discussion, in the sense that we've seen increase, obviously, in court business.
Sure.
We know there's at-risk situations there. We've discussed this previously, and I think we need to be aggressive, or at least give thought to providing security, because if we don't have it, if something should occur, it becomes a liability issue for us.
Right.
Aside from the fact that the security is needed. The comments were there at times are police officers in the courtroom, but they're kind of sitting and not really engaged in providing the level of security that perhaps is required, needed, or expected in that situation. So, we as a board need to discuss this, and Charlie, as the police chief, you need to give us your input.
Yeah, we would adjust the schedule to have an officer in there. For example, there's one there today. I was there last week.
Yeah.
So we've adjusted the schedule and handled that responsibility.
Shouldn't we share this with the town? They're holding court at the same time, right?
The vast majority of the town's business is traffic. The vast
Yeah.
majority of traffic cases are handled by mail. So the people that are causing the difficulties are our problem.
Our problem.
Village residents, village arrestees, and as you can see by this is the variety of stuff they're coming in for, which is not pleasant. I mean, how many people around here are arrested for contempt of court because they've been given an order of protection by the court saying stay away from somebody, and they violate the order of protection? They're not nice people, they're aggressive individuals. Or this guy with possession of a weapon and menacing, this guy for assault, this guy for a fight on Main Street, this guy for robbery and menacing and possession of a weapon. Criminal mission for the Star Theater, grand larceny of a credit card, obstruction of breathing and assault, menacing and harassment, criminal mischief, criminal contempt, again, ignored a court order, petty larceny, criminal contempt of court, ignored a court order, menacing and possession of a weapon, burglary, strangulation, assault, menacing, possession of a weapon, menacing and disorderly conduct.
We read those, thank you.
But I don't know everybody in the room has.
These are the people that are coming to this facility and congregating down there, either inside or outside the courtroom. And there needs to be somebody there providing security and whatever else comes under that umbrella in regards to having a large number of people that at any time could do anything to put people at risk. And we need to give thought to make sure that that doesn't occur. And whatever you think is required there, bring it to the board. Because in my mind, we discussed this, we kind of put it on the back burner. This is about the third time that it's been brought before me. And again, it's an issue that we need to act on. We need to have somebody there whenever the court's in session.
And that's what we have now. We've adjusted the schedule for that.
Okay, you feel that given where we're at right now, we're okay with this? It's a non-issue or what?
I think for the most part we are in good shape. The difficulty comes when you have a defendant needs fingerprints or defendant needs DNA testing and things like that. The officer may step out for the 10-15 minutes to do DNA testing or to do a set of fingerprints, which is not ideal. The question then comes, do you put two officers so that one can go out and do those functions and the other can stay behind in court?
I'm saying whatever officer is there has got to be actively engaged in providing some level of security that the justices feel that's appropriate given the situation.
Right. And I've received no information back from the judges otherwise. I know the judges, in some cases the officers will do the sign-up list, things that I don't think necessarily are their responsibility, but they'll try to determine who wants to see the district attorney and who just wants here to pay a fine.
Hmm?
You're there, if that's helpful to get things moving, you know, the officer wants to get out of there just like the judges do. So if taking a few minutes here and there and trying to get their herd separated in the right direction, officers do that too, you know. Is that ideally what they should be doing? I don't know, but they're...
Well, I'm going to ask the
in the
justice
process of
to
doing it.
provide me with input as to whether or not they're getting the level of security they feel is
Now,
needed.
if they want the metal detector ran, that's a whole nother ballgame there. That's a whole nother...
That I don't know.
I'm not saying we shouldn't run it, but I'm saying if we do run it, that's a whole nother level of involvement.
So are you saying that there's an officer there and he should be he or she should be participating more because they might already be in court or
Well, I'm saying,
something?
you've
Or-
got to be there, you can't be passive. You're there to provide a level of security and whatever that term, whatever the requirement is, as
I'm
far
not
as
aware of
providing
it.
security. I would look to Charlie and the justice to decide amongst the three of them what is required and needed, and just make sure that they're satisfied and you're giving them what they want.
Right. And that's pretty much how I've been playing it, because for a period of time, we didn't have anybody down there.
Yep.
And they seemed quite content with that. And then time went by, and it was like, hey, we would like to have more presence. And we talked about it a little bit here, and we really didn't solve it here, so I just kind of took the bull by the horns and adjusted the schedule, and spent a little overtime and a couple hours here or there to get the job done.
We've got to do it.
So,
Well,
I
I
agree.
don't know what the rest of the board feels.
No.
I feel that we need to
Yes.
provide that level of security.
Yep, I agree.
That's my,
I agree.
Position
It's a
anyways.
necessary evil. It's the nature of the business. It's kind of like having two officers on a Friday, Saturday night. They're just,
and I think
go
also,
right now.
I think part of what brings it to a head occasionally is the fact that you'll read about or hear about something occurring in another community and you go, maybe that could have been avoided, if they had somebody there. So anyways,
I agree. I was here till 1:30 last Wednesday for just that function.
Yeah.
1:30 in the morning before we closed it down.
and who was here with you?
Nobody. That was me.
Well, yeah, you were the last one.
Oh, the last one out? Yeah. Well, yeah. Make sure the judges get to their cars and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. I turn
That's the
off-
other thing,
I turn off
that
all the
they've
lights.
said is that
Everywhere.
oftentimes justices, they'll have escorts,
Yep.
they'll have assigned parking
Side
spaces.
parking. Yep.
I don't think we do any of that.
No, the one judge parks in the police space, but the court clerk, she gets stuck wherever,
Yeah.
whatever space is left. Sometimes she's able to park right behind the building, but, I know, she and I talked about it because I escorted her out probably 3 months ago, and there was a guy in court that night
Mhm.
who is a difficult personality, and he was parked out in his truck, probably about 8 spaces out into the lot. Could be completely coincidental that when I came out, she was out the door probably 20 feet in front of me. So she was out, the door closes, he's out there in his truck. I come out the door, and now his truck starts and he pulls away. Could be completely coincidental that he left when I came out the door.
Right.
Or the fact that I came out the door is encouraged him to leave. We'll never know. But, she's not freaked out by a lot of people, but that particular person does freak her out, and she has good reason to be freaked out by that particular person. And he was just hanging out there for whatever reason at midnight. And his court case was done at least an hour before that. So it's definitely something to pay attention to.
So the extra personnel, is that overtime?
Not always. It was at one point, and I readjusted it. Took hours out of patrol to put in the courtroom to try to compensate for any concerns over overtime. But that shorted us someplace else, so it is what it is.
Anything else?
We got court reports. We're good to go, I think. I don't have anything else.
But I'll get with Dave and Josh, make sure they're
Okay.
cool with things.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, just from the budget, we've already sort of talked about where we are with the audit. Hopefully we'll get something here soon,
Yeah.
or it's almost time to do the next one.
What about the police audit?
Pardon?
The police department audit. Heard anything on that?
Yep.
They did.
Mhm.
It's been a couple weeks now at least, and I lost track, might have been more than that, but they
It's
sent.
just before I went on vacation.
Feeling was,
Yeah.
they sent a basically a contractual agreement. That basically, I took it, this basically means you accept the results of this, accept the results of this study, good or bad. Whatever your point of view may be, you're accepting it. If you think you should have this and we say you shouldn't, on the other hand, you think you shouldn't have this and we say you should, you accept it however. So that was basically the gist of the agreement. And they were fully cooperating, and I signed that off and sent it back, and they sent back a copy saying they're good to go, and they'll be contacting us in the upcoming months to.
I think it slipped in early fall, something like that.
Yeah. So we probably, based on their first conversation, I don't think we'll see anything, the final result of it until probably Christmas or even January. We'll should have something from them in like October, but just a hint of the final thing like after New Year. Maybe those surprises will show up early, hopefully.
So budget finance audit, the bills. Get to them the next few days. Moving right along, Public Works, trustee Whitenack. Gonna hand it off to Mr. Tracy, huh?
Tracy?
I got a pile for you. I figured I'd do it all in one night, so we didn't have to discuss it each week, you know.
Gosh.
So you can follow along. Sorry about the large print, my eyes are getting bad, so I have to keep increasing the size, because I don't want to wear glasses, but one of these days I gotta start wearing them, I guess. I don't know if you noticed, the boys have been out last couple days. We did another round of brush pickup, and Pete and I talked, and maybe we should just make that a pickup right before dogwood, because we do it every year. And it's the time of year, so we should just go ahead and make that a published date. We had a water main leak. It turned out to be basically a bad wrap, if you will. It was a stainless steel wrap, and it has a rubber boot inside, and that rubber boot let go. That was on Hessler cord, which does have a new line. It's not very old, so that was kind of surprising. Got that taken care of. Crestwood Circle, there were some hydrant issues up there. Boys took care of all those. We replaced one up there, one on the corner of Clay and Williams. We planted some trees down at Babcock Park, and then we did get the one in for Don over at Church Park. And John Sauger donated that tree. And then the CVS, they completed the remediation work. They discharged 62,000 gallons, and it netted us $6,200. They paid MRB's fee. That was like $3,000. They paid that, so they paid like $9,000 to us to discharge that water. And we're getting close on the NICEC site to start discharging also. So that's a glimpse of what's happening in our department. This came, the next page, the homeowners flood, I just saw that and I thought you guys might be interested in that. So I just copied that off for you to read sometime. The next one is the proposal from MRB. This is on Knox Street. And I had Matt today, very late, and that's why it's not tight. Behind that proposal from MRB, it shows on that Waterworks page, I don't know if you see the, just the one that's handwritten. It's behind the MRB's proposal. It was just a separate, well, maybe I think it's a separate, yeah. If you go down, he didn't put the date or the addresses or anything, but if you look, that's the year of everybody's service down through. We don't have the addresses, but I think you can get the point. Look at all the lead. That's amazing. I didn't realize it was that bad. And that's what there's a new test that we have to do this summer for lead. I hope they don't test on that street.
Look at the years, 90.4.
Yeah, so that just shows you how old it is. I really would like to do Knox Street.
There might, if we check to see if there's anything remedial work on lead connections or piping,
If what, Pete?
if there might be a grant somewhere for that.
Well, that's what we're going to find out hopefully next week.
Okay.
But I would like to get it started. You can just go through the proposal and read it, but it basically boils down to money. As always. I would have to use MRV on this project for two reasons. One, for the drainage, and two, for a new water line. Because that has to go through health department and everything. Something that, would have to be engineered to do that. But if we were gonna do the street, it does have a new sewer line on it. It has a couple small issues that we can take care of ourselves. The sewer line, and then, we have to check everybody's laterals on the sewer side. But the water side, as you can see, definitely we want to put a new main, and that would get us a new main from Main Street down to the hospital. That's kind of my goal. That way they would have a pretty much brand new line on both sides of the hospital. But you can go through that, and then we can discuss that at a later date.
What's the cost of the project?
That's, it have to be determined with a lot of, if we can get some grants, like.
Would we
It's a
proceed,
couple-
with-
It's a couple $100,000 job.
are you proposing we proceed without grant money?
I know, I want to talk with these guys next week. I would like to at least get it shovel-ready. I would like to spend the money for engineering, surveying. Bruce did find that there are some easements down there, but they date back to 1924, I think he said. So I told him, like, on the south side of the street, not to worry about it, but the easements on the north side, like Little League Field, there's only a few properties on the north side. Because we would like to maybe do just one sidewalk. It would help us on possibly less of a drainage impact. We might have to maybe put a structure in or something like that. If we keep if we can take some basically hard surface asphalt, concrete away from the project, it helps a lot. They're all looking at runoff, And I really don't think we need two sidewalks down that street. I think we need to start getting to one sidewalk. So, that's something that would all come out if MRV gets involved. But, to have a shovel-ready project is good. That way when the grant money comes out or whatever, you have it, hand it over, and you go, So I think it's something we should, consider. I can use CHIPS money on that, so we could at least get the ball rolling there. So.
Scott, could you give us an assessment of looking at what repairs are needed in the village as far as the roads this year and where you want to spend money?
Yes, I have a list together. We were going to sit down with Brian and kind of discuss. I'd like to have somewhat of a figure to go with, what we're going to spend this year. So I can give you a list, but you don't want to see what I would like to do. So there's a lot that needs to be done, and we can only do.
Prioritize it. We've talked about this in the past.
I have that done, yes.
Give us a list, prioritize it, and give us your best estimate of cost figures do the type of work that you think that's needed to repair a lot of these streets, given the harsh winter that we had. We need to see the total picture, or at least I do.
That, the next page was that working foreperson. Just read that over. That's a job description that you guys will see this week when you meet with the union. I just got this. This would be maybe a step down from the superintendent. But we just look it over and we can discuss that later.
Is this a union position?
Yes.
In what labor grade is
Well, it would be whatever we want to make it, basically. I'd like to make it 11.
it? It doesn't have one assigned to it?
No.
Okay.
This is just a county position, and then we figure which labor grade that we want to add to it.
And what are the multi-level?
10s.
10.
So you'd have a 10, and then this would be 11, then you'd have a 12, which would be the deputy superintendent.
Is this, I'm sorry, I'm still looking for it.
I'm sorry.
I haven't found it yet.
Right here. Maybe you got my best.
Is this something that you are proposing?
Yes.
So you've spoken to the union about this
I
already?
just today talked to Karen briefly. She was
Uh-huh.
going to talk with you guys at the next meeting.
Tomorrow.
I didn't know that, so I'll have to get.
Well, it had already been brought up once before.
Right.
that,
This is a
they-
different, this is a different one though. This is a different position.
No, that's the same one.
So this is
That other one was a water maintenance worker,
Yeah. right.
which has to be, that, the one that you guys have now, the water maintenance worker, if you read that, it's more like for districts and like water districts and things like that, so we would have to, I thought that we could modify the one that you guys had, but county says we have to do a duty statement, so I would like to see you guys approve the position, and then we have to, for the union, and then we'll have to make a change to it. Any questions on that, or pretty good?
Need to look at it some more.
The next is, I had a meeting with Joe Johnson and Dick and Pete on some equipment that I'd like to add into the project at the plant, the wastewater treatment plant. And the first one from Joe Johnson is $72,000, and that's the camera, the sewer camera. And I guess all I'm really asking for now is to submit some of this to EFC to see if we can get funding for it. And if we can get funding, I guess I'd make a decision whether you want to do it, I guess, because if we can't get the funding, it's going to be a no-go anyways. I don't know how you guys want to proceed with that. There's two pieces there. There's one of them is a sewer camera that's $72,000. It's piggybacked off another Monroe County. I have that, but I didn't hand that out. That's kind of just a big lengthy packet of paper that you guys are going to want to read through. But that's how that's purchased. It's just piggybacked off another municipality, so we don't have to bid it. And then the other one is a sewer vac truck, which is very expensive, but it's something the village needs. You can see the price tag on that's hefty.
Well, if this would go into the sewer plant, it would go into the,
For the funding.
for the funding,
Yep.
you know?
Well, I talked to Bill Davis, and he said, run it by you guys,
Right,
to at least get a stamp of approval to submit,
right.
see what happens. If we get it, we get it. If we don't, we don't, I guess.
Well,
He thought anything that has to do with sewer, though, we could get better probably would.
right. And we're in a position where President Jeb is
25 years old.
yeah, exactly, yep.
But this does a lot of things. I mean, it's a vac truck, so,
Oh, yeah, right.
like today, there was 2 or 3 places a Matt had to dig up. You can take the vac truck and make a nice little small hole. We have 3 valve boxes right down here. They're trying to shut off to replace a hydrant. Boxes are tipped over. We got to dig them up either by hand or with a backhoe. For that, you just put it there and it sucks the ground out, makes a nice little hole, you straighten it up, and away you go. Plus catch basins, plus when you're cleaning out when you're jetting a line, you can actually clean out the system, actually suck out the debris that you've just cleaned out of the line instead of sending it on down the line and plugging it up someplace else. I mean, it's a expensive piece, but I think we've done a very good job at the plant to get the price where it should be. And we do have some extra funding. Like I say, it's never going to be 0% again.
Right, exactly.
Any questions on those 2 pieces? The next one is, I think, in order, is the Keystone Precision Instruments. It's the GPS equipment. It's in my budget now. The price went up a little bit, but I can more than cover it in my budget. I would like to do it in this year's budget if I could, but we have the old Trimble unit that we have. We'll take that back in on trade. If we didn't have the Trimble unit that we have now, it was purchased, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, and we had the software, and it was never started basically. So that was a huge savings for us. And that was probably another $7,000 or $8,000 on top of this. So what this would allow us to do is basically go out and start GPSing. We would give the data to MRB, and then they would plot it for us on a big map. But as we take the data, as we get out, you find a bell box that we didn't know was there, whatever, they take those shots. You can also enter in information, like, we exercised this today, and, it didn't leak, or it leaked, or, you keep track of all that information. That's a big plus with that.
Maintenance log.
Yes,
Mhm.
yep. And, but there's a lot of, uses. Bell boxes, I mean, just, as they go out and turn them off, you locate them, and just, we did find the one up to King's Daughters today.
Married.
And there it was, 30 feet from where we were looking, right in the ditch. Actually, Donnie Amler found it when he was cleaning up there today. Hey, we looked everywhere for it. King's Daughters is now shut off totally. A little late. I went inside today and it's sad in there. Very sad.
Is it easy? Is access easy getting in there?
Well, we had a key, so.
No, okay.
No, you can't get in. It's locked tighter than tight. It's just a shame.
And when they're doing patrol, or they're swinging by there?
Yeah, I was thinking we should probably get a copy of that key, because if someone does get themselves crawl through a window or something, we're not gonna wanna try to crawl through the same window following them. We'd rather just unlock the door and chase them down that way, so I could probably get a
Actually, I
copy
can
of that.
probably just give you the key now, because we
Just
don't
put a
really
lockbox down there, so it needs it'll be down there.
So, we can pull it on Tuesday if you'd like, on the GPS unit. This other, I just stuck one in today from Milton Cat. And I'm not saying we're gonna go with any of this, but I would like to also submit to EFC. We sold the backhoe at auction this week, and I would like to replace that, but I would like to do that out of our 3 funds, backhoe. I would like to, and Charlie, I guess, another point about tearing down houses, but they make we'll say, they still call it a mini excavator, but it's quite a bit bigger than the one we had. Right now if we did Knox Street, we would definitely use it there. But we have some sewer issues. Washington Street's a mess. That's gonna have to be replaced. So this is a little bit bigger machine that you would use on water jobs and a lot of things. The little mini is not big enough to do those kind of jobs. We're installing, sewer lines that are 7 or 8 feet in the ground. So I just got these just for numbers so you had an idea. The backhoe there is a little high because I wouldn't go with a large backhoe like that. But this mini excavator, you can see it's $97,000. I would like to submit to EFC to see if they would go along with that. The next one down, the $68,000, that's for the composting facility, just so you know. That'll happen no matter what we do. That's just part of the composting facility. I just had them price it out so I had an idea what that loader would cost today. And then the last one is it's a roller. It's a little asphalt roller that we don't have, that we could use in all the departments. And I asked Bill about it. He says as long as you're repairing sewer lines, that they would probably go for that. So there's really 3 items on there. Well, really 2 items, because the one is the $68,000 is going to happen one way or the other with composting. It has to. So the other 2 items, I guess, is what I'm asking for to take a look at. And that's it. We went a little fast, but we can discuss it further. If anybody wants to talk about it, on the side, just call me, we can go over them, show you what we're talking about, pictures of the trucks and so on and so forth. And let's see. I talked to you guys about the sweeping in the village. I did find a fellow out of the city. He's going to come down tomorrow and do a little sweeping before the dogwood.
Before the storm.
What's that?
Before the storm.
Yeah. They did blow off Main Street today. I don't know if your guy, did he get a chance to do anything on Main Street today? So we blew everything out in the street, and then tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, he's going to take care of that. Babcock's was charging us $125 an hour, and he's going to now, but we'll have to bid it out now that we, see what happens. But they do make a
I've talked to you guys before, it's a pickup room that we can put on the loaders, so I think we can do a lot of it. He made me an offer that if we got it, we didn't like it, we could return it. So I guess that's a huge plus. Usually, you know,
Is this something that's going to kick up a lot of dust?
no, it has water on it, no
Okay.
dust. No, it's a $30,000 unit, but when you buy it, they give us such a discount, it costs $17,815 if I add it on to the, there's one loader that hasn't arrived yet, when we add it onto that loader. You know, I have money in my budget, we can pay for that, you know, out of the budget now. But I would like you guys to consider that and give it a try. I think with a little bit of street sweeping with these guys, and then what we can do, this pickup room would work really nice. Like this year, we're definitely gonna be doing some mill and fill on the streets. When you mill and fill, or when you mill, you've gotta sweep it somehow. And, you know, we have the one broom, but it doesn't pick up. You would windrow it with that one, then pick it up with this one. Plus you could go, like after the parade, this week would be perfect for that. Right after the parade, you just run down the street and pick up all the trash, you know. More stuff, and we need to talk about that too, that's another ordinance that we have to talk about. I'm getting a lot of complaints on that, the horses going through.
Actually, I think it's in our ordinance already.
Is it?
I believe so.
Well, the parade too.
And in fact, when the sheriff's people come through on the parade, normally they have somebody right behind them.
Yeah. But yeah,
Saw
it
some,
would be
saw
quite a
some
better-
kid, or a couple of kids doing it.
I don't know why they can't put a catcher on those, I mean, what's the difference? And I did this week put into the budget a zero-turn, I don't want to surprise you like I was trying to slip something, but you'll see a zero-turn mower in the budget. If, I put it in because when you buy it, the way we buy it, you need to have the check ahead of time. Well, last year I sold 4 tractors. 2 tractors out of each plant, Waltz and the tractor up at the plant. That money all went into basically reserve fund because the way we did our accounting before wasn't whatever. So the money didn't go back into my equipment fund. So actually even the first loader we sold, that all went back into reserve funds. So I haven't really replaced any lawn tractors at all. So especially with the mowing we have to do, the little zero turns actually work the best. These things at auction we're bringing in about $7,200. We pay $75, $60 for them, and you know they were like 2 years old, so they're a really good deal. You buy them, keep them a couple years, and take them and get rid of them and get another one. It's a great way to keep a good mower. Bill retired down to Babcock, so that's another reason for one of these. He has his tractor's old and it's small, and it just isn't. It was great for him, but it just, you know, the guys can keep up with that. I'm not worried about that down there. So I don't know if we should pull that out and vote on it Tuesday, or, you know, Jay always said $5,000 or $6,000. I need to contact you guys, so that's why I want to bring it up. That it's in there. But I'd like to get it.
I see that.
Yeah, get it approved so I can at least get the check so I can get it. And that's in this year's budget already. So, that's about it. Oh, one other item. That light down for Rocco.
Oh, down there off of Earl Drive or Jackson Street?
Yes, it costs $7 a month if we can put it on an existing pole, and we can down there.
Mhm.
So $84 a year is what it costs to put a light on. So that's what
It wouldn't cost anything else?
Nope, that's it.
That's it.
Yep.
Plus, obviously, the donuts money. Have you talked to him? This Rocco guy?
Yeah, he's got some other issues. He's cleaning up and doing some things down there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was very happy that we were following through with his light.
Yeah.
So I guess we should vote on that Tuesday night.
Mhm.
Put that on. Scott? Yes.
It would be beneficial
Yep.
to have spreadsheet, list, whatever you want to call it, piece of equipment, where not it's a budgeted item this year. Is it no replacement cost? use and how we're gonna pay for it. Put it on a spreadsheet so we can look from the beginning across and see actually in aggregate what we're looking at. You know, this is fine, you know, and you got a lot of good information here, but to look at the entire picture, I've got to have something like that in front of me.
Do you want, I mean, how about the items that I gave you, like for the camera and the truck?
Yeah, absolutely.
You want where the money's gonna come from for those items, is that what you're saying? And as far as...
Well, you got a piece of equipment, right? And here is budgeted or not budgeted. It's here new replacement, correct?
Well, those are, like I say, those are part of the plan, so I consider those basically a kind of a different purchase. That's a purchase that you don't do very often. You put it on top of the plan.
Well, I know, but still a new replacement piece of equipment, correct? It's here new or it's replacing something that's out there?
Well, that one is kind of a combination of 2 or 3
Okay.
different things.
And you say new replacement / combination.
Okay.
We're spending too much time on this. Where's it going to be used? What's the cost and how we're going to pay for it? Is it grant? Is it budgeted? You know.
All right, I'll put that together and email it to you.
Well, yeah, email to everybody on the board.
Yeah.
I would assume there's interest on everybody's part here. Equipment's not my forte, but when I see a lot of requests, I start becoming inquisitive.
Well, most of those purchases are going to be decided on later. Like I say, if we can't get the funding,
Yep.
then it's a new issue.
That's a lot of it, if we fund it through the sewer plant. Why, if we can borrow that money at 0%.
That is money we have to send, we have to pay back.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
We still have to pay that back though, right?
Still
But if
gets
we pay
added
it
to the
back at
total
0%,
cost.
If we pay it back at 0%, it's a whole lot easier than it.
It's still borrowed money.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We're in agreement there.
Okay, anything else, Scott?
I believe that's it.
Just a couple of things. You want to talk about the contamination stuff? Bring that up? Just, I guess, close it out at this point.
Yeah, well...
Just an overview.
Yeah, the school wanted some fill for their project, so they had it tested, and it showed some high elevations of lead and mercury. So we had our own testing done, and they just did a couple. The first test was just a couple grab samples, and
This is out of the area where the composting facilities going
Right.
to be put up.
so we had our own lots came in, and they did a composite sample. That's where they take many samples from a pile, and they all came back well below like residential use. So there should be no issues at this point. I was just reading Bill's email, and
Yeah.
there's a letter from Watts that goes right through the whole thing. So
I'll be contacting
the school's doing the parking lot, and they wanted some fill,
And they're gonna take it from,
from the wastewater treatment plant over
they
there.
make, the
Yeah,
levels that they have, do they have different standards?
no, it's just that when you take just one little sample out of a big pile, you could grab a hot spot basically. So when they do a composite, they take the whole pile, take a whole bunch of samples, probably average it or how they do that, I'm not sure.
So now can they use it?
Yes, we're fine.
Well, the school won't use it.
No, actually, well, yeah, the school's out of it.
Yeah, the school's out of the picture.
Yeah. Definitely out of the picture. But we can use it, no problem.
Our concern, and it was, Crane Hogan also had a concern, was the impact on the workers down there.
Right.
The actual stuff that they've moved around is some of what got retested, and that came up pretty minimal. In fact, what Bill Davis was saying is they suspect that the contaminated stuff was just from probably a lot of the stuff that was being processed down there, and some of the heavy metals that come out of there. So as long as it remains there, gets capped over, we're fine. So, and I guess I don't know how. Just give you just a heads up, we haven't gotten all the final action on this because John Vogel, myself, and Bill Davis met on Monday talk about it. But as you are, I believe, aware, hopefully I sent the information to you. There's some issues with D'Amico on a notice of levy from the IRS. And there's also a lien on them as well, of about $3,000. The notice of levy is around $20,000.
They were there working today.
Were they? Good.
The dad.
But there have been some concerns where this is going. Hopefully it will get taken care of. And we're just taking a look at our legal responsibilities on that. We've also supposed to have the startup this month. I don't know. How's the electrical work coming?
Rusty said, hopefully, first week in June.
It keeps getting pushed back.
No, we had a meeting today, and Mark is, they're gonna be on board for next week. Silence coming.
Okay, well, Mark's been promising and promising and
But
promising.
he, they were going through the checklist, and he had a lot of it done, so.
Okay, good.
I think he'll make it.
I just sort of give you a heads up there. It's been a little hectic down there.
Well, I can tell you, there was some talk today of asking for an extension from you guys, so. And that's because phase 2 was supposed to be completed in, I think, June 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Phase 2 hasn't even started, so. So they're gonna have to ask for an extension for that, which I guess at this point,
Yeah, I mean, part of it was because of the weather. Winter weather obviously slowed it down quite a bit. But we've had some issues with the contractors, so.
But I'd say,
Lack of heating.
we still don't have heat, Nick.
Right.
Or insulation on the pipes, or,
Yeah.
that's been over a year now.
Yeah.
Lack of heating that we had to step forward and provide the heating ourselves.
Mhm. A violation of their contract.
Yeah.
So anyway, at this point, we brought John into it, so it's getting a little critical now. Everybody's attuned to what's happening. I think EFC is now well aware of what's going on. It's an unusual circumstance, I guess, to have this notice of levy. Doesn't happen very often. Okay, Parks and Rec.
Well, the planners are planted.
No, some are.
Pardon?
They're at least assigned.
Yeah. We're very fortunate that we have all of the planners on Main Street spoken for. We still have the parks, Church Park and Babcock Park yet to get collaboration from. So that's still open, but we're coming pretty good. Did you get that topsoil up there? Okay, I got a phone call this afternoon, wondered about it, so.
Yeah, they were supposed, yeah, I know they did.
Okay.
I didn't go out and actually look at it, but
Well,
they had a bucket full, they were heading that way, so
Yeah.
I'm sure they.
Okay, yeah.
Must have put it on the wrong one.
Yeah. But all in all, it's turned out pretty decent, so. I think it's coming together pretty decent, so. Don't know of any other issues that need to be addressed.
Okay.
If somebody take Paradise Alley, you doing good?
Nothing other than the village, my notation is the village will take care of it, so.
So, not saying I will, but at times, if I choose to dive in there and maintain some of that, I'm not hurting anybody else's feelings.
No, I guess,
I'm not screwing up anybody else's stuff.
yeah,
I got one right there by the clock.
yeah.
And the one just down the street, so maybe time to time, but I some weeds and stuff back in the rain.
I've got markers, I got 3 or 4 markers in the back of my truck. I'm driving them all there.
Just gotta give me the name.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And just a heads up, been contacted by Sean Harmish from Community Center, and they've advertising for people to do the summer rec program and everything, so that's underway. That's good to know. At least that won't be waiting till the last minute. And they've got some stuff, I guess, on their website if anybody's interested, applications and stuff. And the only other thing I have under Parks and Rec is the pavilion contract, Fireman's Pavilion. we need to make a decision on that. It's been held up, some talk about making it a shorter contract. The fire department is not interested in a shorter contract. They would prefer to have a 15-year. They've done it at least twice now in the past. It's never been an issue. I don't know. I was concerned about obligating future boards to a contract.
Yeah.
Well,
They were gonna get us a proposal of different things that they plan to do.
well, they don't have a real tight proposal or master plan at this point.
I think a good faith effort was.
I know they've done some cleaning up down there with the kitchen area and the storage area, the coolers. But I think they're looking at, Malcolm Jarvis is in charge of it, but doing something more with it down the road, but they haven't really come up with any particular plan.
I don't think they've done anything that's hurt us anything over the years.
And we'll bring it up on Tuesday night, and I'll make a proposal, and we can
Right.
go forward or not. And this next area, technology, Trustee Friley.
I don't have anything at this point.
Okay, the only thing I have is Monday, I'm going to have a webinar with a company called Seamless Government, seamlessgov.com. As far as website goes, and some capabilities they could give to us. I'm just hesitant at this point, and we'll get into that in a minute, about going too far down the road with a new website if we aren't too sure what we're going to be doing in the future. We've had, about 3 webinars now. Make a decision on at what point we want to move forward or if we don't want to. And with that, move on to consolidation.
Everyone received the information Ian Coyle had approved. I spoke with Ian Coyle, he had approved the grant, and he had notified, or that Bernie Toma could write the grant for the county, or he's a county grant writer. He gave Bernie Toma permission to write the grant. The 2 women from MRB had worked with the Village of Lyons, who worked actually with the Department of State, and the Department of State actually created the work plan for Lyons, and they were going to share that with Bernie, so that to take care of a lot of the grant writing that he needs to do for this grant, and hopefully he'll be able to have it ready by June 1st. And it's reviewed on a rolling basis. I think it's the first Wednesday of every month.
Something like that.
So that's where that is right now. And they sent us the work plan that they had shared with Bernie. And Bernie said he could work with us, with them through us, but it seemed logical for him to just work together with the women from MRB. So I believe that's the way they're going, and they were very helpful in getting in the information very quickly.
I don't have any problem with that. My only issue is, I've never really gotten a satisfactory answer, I think, is how did we end up on the dissolution route? I'm not opposed necessarily to dissolution. I'm just trying to figure out how do we come to that decision, because the board hasn't made a decision on that.
When we had a meeting, and the 2 women, Connie Sowers and Diana Smith from MRB, met with us, and they had discussed the Craig grant and that working with the Village of Lyons, and that they, actually Lyons had petitioned, and that working through the dissolution plan as the method of consolidation was effective and it was actually successful in Lyons. Not that we know it's going to be that here, but at least there's a concrete plan of how to move forward and have this happen. And it's not really any different than the consolidation for the village of Dansville in that most of the village is also the town. So people in the village, if they had a consolidation, the village would be able to vote twice, and the town people would be able to vote once. This is just the town actually dissolving into the village, or the village dissolving into the town. It becomes, it's the same result.
But the committee didn't vote as to go forward with this, or?
They didn't vote, no, we were all in agreement. And then they told us that to come to the board and ask that we approve that, and everyone agreed with that.
Okay.
In fact, Greg Moore, who was on the original committee of the last study, said that he felt that he learned more from those women in that short length of time, and that they had more information than he learned through the whole consolidation study that took place previously, that he was part of. And this is going to have, actually, it's going to be an efficiency study as well. We're going to be able to take a look at every single thing and see where we are, and there'll be concrete information to take a look at where we are, our proposed plan, and then it's up to the voters to take a look and decide. Nothing's ever been brought forth to the voters in 40 years, 40 plus years, so they're going to get a chance, hopefully, if the grant is approved.
Well, I think what we need to do as a board, make a decision too, because we still haven't done that either. So I guess maybe next week is the time to raise this, if that's how we want to proceed. We've obviously started down that path, but we haven't officially said so. Think about it. Anything else under consolidation?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Unfinished or new business?
I've got a few things here.
Okay.
Do we need to act on an annual basis on the tax exemptions
No.
for senior citizens? And
There are, most of that I believe goes to the assessor's office.
Right.
yeah, last year we approved it on the board.
There were a couple because there were changes.
Okay, so if there's no changes, there's no need to approve it?
No, I don't believe so. I can check if you like.
No, I was just asking. I was reading through some old minutes and
Okay.
came across that, so,
Yeah, it was what the senior citizens, was it, and disabled or something like that
yeah.
from last year, yeah.
Brookside House,
I still not heard a thing back.
are we going to put a proposal forward on that for the Girl Scouts as to a fee or a charge that they would incur?
Well, that's what we were waiting to see what, remember,
Yeah.
the question had been is what would they be willing to pay?
Yeah, I know.
And we've got nothing back. So now silence means
Are we gonna,
ignorance is bliss or what?
I understand that, I don't know. I mean, we've been tossing this around for months now.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to put a proposal out there.
I don't know. It's difficult to put a proposal out there not knowing
Yeah,
the
with the,
frequency that they use it on an annual, a monthly, whatever the basis is.
I'll try to call her.
You know, I mean,
Obviously not
if they're
tonight.
using it 4 times a month, you know, that's going to lead me in one direction versus if they're using it 8 times a month.
Beth lives about 3 houses from me, so I got, maybe I'll just
know,
walk
that-
up there tomorrow night and ask her.
Yeah, the idea is to, you know, make it fair and to factor in perhaps other people would want to use it. What about the Little League parking? Where do we stand on that? I know that there was a proposal that came to us from the county. I guess, are we in agreement with that? Are we looking at it? Are we discussing it? Or what are we doing with it?
I think the planning board pretty much decided that for us, didn't they?
Probably.
Yeah?
I don't think we had a say in
The
it.
pro- the-
Nobody asked.
Nobody, I thought
Well,
the
they
opinion...
they asked us, and we said we needed parking for Little League, but I think, what we're getting is, it's not going to be satisfactory.
Right.
I can call Angela, see if there's any room for maneuver on that. I don't know where they stand at this point. I know, actually, Officer Grease was trying to talk to me earlier today about that Wilcox property. As a property owner, he's a private citizen. He's been tied up all day.
Did we submit the tree inventory grant? We're in agreement, we're going to do that, right?
We were going to do one that was, it was the management. We had to do one for the count.
Well, there was one where we were gonna hire that fellow to come in and do the study. And that was, I can't remember the dollar amount. And we haven't gone through with that. We talked about it. and
There were
they
two grants that were proposed, one, I think this one had to precede the other one.
Yes. That was the one that was, one was a tree management program, but
Yeah.
before we did that, we had to do, I think
Inventory.
it was an inventory.
Yeah, no, we had. Yeah,
And I haven't done anything with it. I don't know if, Scott, you've probably
Well,
been
I
busy.
got the proposal from that one fellow to come and do it.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we left it.
We haven't really done anything.
You really have to do that first before you get the
Mhm.
grant.
Do you have any update on that whole FEMA with MRV?
No, because
Bond and all of that?
no, because I think he's got to sign that.
I already signed it. It's already been sent to him.
Just recently though, right?
Yeah.
So the ball would
So-
roll now.
One
I
disagreement.
didn't hear the question, Pat.
I was wondering if you could give me an update on that FEMA and the MRV proposal
Oh,
to, if there was any progress so far, or what the progress was.
It'll
You
sketch.
just signed the agreement,
Yeah.
so now
Okay.
Yeah,
they'll
they-
move on it.
I thought I signed it before I went on vacation, but nobody seems to have found it, so we did it again when I got back. As for, I will say that I did send a letter to Congressman Collins on that, asking him to come here and explaining what the problem was. That's been about a month now. I've heard nothing back. I sent copies to our two state representatives, as well as our two state senators. I haven't heard anything from them either. They say, of course, that was just copying them in, so they knew what was going on. I know Collins was in the area the other day because he was up down in Geneseo talking about economic development. I expressed my displeasure with the fact I haven't heard anything back.
He's crazy.
Is he coming to that?
I said maybe law.
Well, if he is, I'll corner him. Say, hey, I don't know if his Geneseo office is ineffective or not, because that's where I sent the letter. So, that's where things stand on that. Anything else?
request to go in executive session, but we can, when we get to that,
Okay. Purpose being?
to discuss trustee Griffith's absence from meetings.
Okay. That form of a motion?
That's correct.
Okay. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It's at 9:55. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.